Are Harlequins the best Eldar unit ever? Eldar Harlequins. They have been around for a very long time. They were around back in the early days of Warhammer 40,000. You can even call them some Oldhammer Eldar, some of the best Eldar, I'll have you know. Harlequins, or Eldar Harlequins, the denizens of the laughing god, whatever you wish to call them. They only have one name, Harlequins. I think they might have an Eldar name, which I don't know. These Harlequins have some of the best lore in Warhammer 40,000. They are very interesting people, or aliens, or soldiers. What are they? Should we just call them Eldar people? They are very interesting Eldar people. They also had some of the coolest ever equipment. Have you ever heard of equipment? The Eldar Harlequins also have This is impossible to say. The Eldar Harlequins always had some of the coolest equipment in Warhammer 40,000, and the coolest single piece of equipment is the Harlequin's kiss. I don't know why I'm doing this sort of Spider-Man webbing mechanism. I think it's... Is it on the top of the wrist like this? I think it's on the top. My jumper looks a bit too bright for this video. I might have to not wear this jumper in future. It does say BRKLYN, or Be Ready Kinraid Lynn. Who is this Lynn, and why is she on my jumper? The Eldar Harlequins also had some of the coolest units ever, such as the Death Jester, playing the air guitar by the look of things, and the Solitaire. Looking very cool there, a bit emo, a bit edgelord, but he is the Solitaire. I'm not sure what this is. I think this is a vampire's cloak or something. It's one of those days today. I've had a lot of coffee. So let's jump in and have a look at some of the oldest Eldar Harlequin lore. All their wars are merry, and all their songs are sad. By G.K. Chesterton. The Harlequins, or Eldar term Rilitan, are a uniquely Eldar social and military institution. A caste of fighters and entertainers who exist beyond conventional Eldar social structure. They owe no allegiance to any craft world or any other Eldar community, and travel amongst Eldar and other races at will. The Harlequins see no distinction between art and war, and their outlook can be best explained by reference to the legend of the fall of the Eldar. One of their self-appointed duties is to keep this legend alive through their performances. The central figure of Harlequin belief is the Segarak, the Great Harlequin, also known as the Great Fool, the First Fool, or the Laughing God. According to legend, this deity survived the fall because his mocking nature distanced him from the corruption and decadence that became Slaanesh. The Great Harlequin is the only authority that the Harlequins recognise. There are stories about Harlequins and other Eldar who have met the Laughing God in the guise of a Harlequin without realising his identity until afterwards. Harlequins travel constantly, presenting entertainments based on Eldar tradition and centred on the body of lore which has sprung up around the Laughing God. They have been known to stage their dance dramas for humans and other non-Eldar, since they believe that the fall of the Eldar holds a lesson from which all races may benefit. As well as being entertainers, Eldar Harlequins are the deadliest fighters of their race. In battle, they use their acrobatic skills and a range of specialist equipment to devastating effect. Among many of the less intelligent races, they are regarded as wizards, malevolent warp entities, or worse. Harlequins are thought to wear their masks at all times. Their clothing is tight-fitting and brightly coloured, with bold stripes, zigzags, spots, checks and other colourful designs. Multiple belts, studs, straps, buckles, scarves and other adornments are common, and the symbol of the mask is often incorporated into the clothing design. Death jesters are an exception to this practice, preferring to wear predominantly black clothing, often with white skull and bone designs. A device known as a hollow suit or dathedi shield, dathedi itself meaning between colours, or visual disruption field is incorporated into each Harlequin's bodysuit, projecting a holographic field around the wearer's body. This produces various costume effects in performance and operates in battle like a programmable form of chameleon, breaking up the Harlequin's outline. Refractor and conversion fields are also widely used as well. In addition, the death jesters commonly wear carapace and other armour types. To enhance their speed and agility, Harlequins are equipped with suspensor belts known as flip belts, inertia pivots, or Gaia-Galath, or belt of speed. These devices allow the Harlequins to pivot effortlessly about hip level, and permit undiminished use of their spectacular acrobatic abilities even when encumbered with battle gear. Harlequins use a range of specialist equipment as well as conventional kit. Vehicles attached to a Harlequin force are brightly painted in the same patterns as the Harlequins themselves, and festooned with flags and bunting, a strangely cheerful sight on the battlefield. It is also common for Harlequin vehicles to be equipped with visual disruption fields. Harlequin Organisation. Harlequins are organised into two basic units, the troop and the mask. A mask is composed of a number of troops plus certain additional personalities. Avatars, or Athea, are the officers of the Harlequins. Each troop is led by an avatar. In performance, the avatar dances the part of the laughing god. Some avatars wear long cloaks to indicate their rank. They are usually armed with two close combat weapons, one of which is often a shuriken pistol, and equipped with visual disruption and conversion fields. In addition, some avatars may have psychic abilities. Occasionally, an avatar may be armed with vortex grenades, delivering them by running forwards alone while the rest of the troop supplies covering fire. The avatars of some Harlequin troops carry a number of lightweight batons, which unfold into a flag bearing the symbol of their mask. This is commonly left as a calling card after the destruction of enemy units and installations. Troopers, or Rilitan, form the backbone of a Harlequin force. In performance, they dance the chorus roles, and in battle, they form the rank and file of the Harlequin troop, if such a term is appropriate to the unique structure of Harlequin troops. Typical equipment for a trooper consists of two close combat weapons, one of which is often the shuriken pistol, a visual disruption field and a refractor field. Warlocks, or Esdain, are specialist psykers. While other personalities may or may not have psychic powers, the Warlocks contribute most to the psychic capacity of a Harlequin force. Many Warlocks favour masks which do not feature a face design. In performance, the Warlock takes the roles of the wizard and the storyteller, and adds to the performance by using his psychic powers and the release of programmed hallucinogens from the Krydan mini grenade launcher strapped to his back. In battle, this is used as a conventional grenade launcher, laying down a pattern of grenade fire to cover the Harlequin's advance into close combat. Blind, hallucinogen, scare, smoke and stasis grenades are particularly favoured. Vortex grenades may be used in spectacular solo attacks. Apart from the mini grenade launcher, warlocks and avatars are equipped in a similar fashion, with 2 close combat weapons, a visual disruption field and a conversion field. Some warlocks have been known to have a Grinx for a companion. Death Jesters, or Death Heads, Margarak, are heavy weapons specialists who tend to stand somewhat aloof from other Harlequins, and even from each other. They are renowned for their morbid and ironic sense of humour, something not normally considered an Eldar trait. On the battlefield, they stand off from the rest of a Harlequin force, firing their heavy weapons in support. Their costumes and equipment nearly always feature skulls, bones and other symbols of death, and the Death's Head mask has almost become a uniform for them. In performance, the Death Jester dances the role of death and performs daring stunts of escapology and risk, dicing with death as they are fond of saying. In battle, the Death Jester delivers his punchline with las cannon and shuriken cannon. Carapace armour, enhanced by visual disruption and conversion fields, is also worn. The encumbrance of their equipment is countered by their flip belts. They have been known to use vortex grenades. The High Avatar, Ardathair, is the leader of the mask. He takes the role of the laughing god only when the whole mask is involved in a performance, while avatars from the individual troops play lesser deities and other mythological roles. High avatars dress and behave in the same way as lesser avatars, but they show a distinct preference for face designs on their masks, especially the smiling face of the laughing god, a snarling face of demonic aspect, or a beautiful but impassive Eldar face. The High Warlock, Athelstan, is the overall commander of a mask's warlocks, and may overrule commands issued to warlocks by their avatars. This rarely happens in practice. It is not unknown for a High Warlock to take the warlocks from the troops and form them into a separate unit under his or her own command. The High Warlock advises the High Avatar on all psychic matters. In performance, the High Warlock leads and coordinates the other warlocks as they play the role of a supporting chorus to his storyteller. In battle, the High Warlock may coordinate their grenade barrages or act as a completely independent personality. Mimes, or Distor, are under the direct command of the Master Mime. Instead of being allocated to individual troops, in performance the mimes play mystical and demonic roles, using movement and gesture only. Even in everyday life, the mimes speak little, communicating among themselves by Lambruith, their system of hand signals. It is customary for mimes to go in advance of a mask or troop to announce their arrival. Frequently, they simply appear on a craft world or elsewhere, without anyone knowing when or how they arrived. This skill is also used in warfare. The often repeated stories of enemy commanders suddenly and unaccountably finding a Harlequin calling card in their command centres are typical examples of the tactics mimes use to undermine enemy morale. Infiltration and assassination are their speciality. The Master Mime, or Athistor, commands the mimes of his or her mask, and advises the High Avatar on all matters of espionage, infiltration, and politics. In performance, the Master Mime joins the other mimes, generally playing the most prominent and demanding demon or mystic role. Solitaires, or Arabenian, are outside the mask and roam the universe alone, occasionally joining a mask for a single performance or battle as the fancy takes them. They are the only Harlequins who can play the role of Slaanesh in the great Harlequin masterwork known as the Dance. Various stories exist of other Harlequins who have tried and been driven mad by the experience. They almost always fight as individuals. Among the Eldar, it is said that solitaires are Harlequins who have been touched directly by the great Harlequin and have his insight into the fall of the race and the nature of the universe. A solitaire may live unknown among Eldar or even members of another race for years or decades, and there are many rumours and folk tales telling of Eldar who have met a solitaire and realised later that this was the great Harlequin himself. Solitaires represent the very pinnacle of the Harlequin ideal and are formidable foes. Harlequins and the fall of the Eldar. Before the rise of the Imperium, or even the emergence of mankind into the galaxy, the Eldar had established a mighty civilization that spanned many planetary systems. Their huge city ships and craft worlds, vast ornate palaces floating between star systems, traded new knowledge and goods. Learning, enlightenment, and reason flourished. The Eldar enriched the galaxy and looked for new worlds to make their own and new challenges to meet. One challenge they took up was the complete mastery of warp gate technology. The Eldar adopted, refined, and perfected the ancient Slan knowledge of the warp and its movements. They established a network of wormhole tunnels through warp space, linking gates aboard their craft worlds, planets, and smaller spaceships. It was possible for an Eldar to walk from one planet to another, across hundreds or thousands of light years of real space. The warp gates bound the Eldar together as a single civilization, stretching across space, and it was theorized backwards and forwards in time. The Eldar, fearful of the consequences, never experimented with the temporal aspects of the warp gates. Their studies did, however, bring them an understanding of the link between the warp and psychic power. In making this conceptual leap, the Eldar also discovered the power of chaos in all its seductive glory. The Eldar, for all their apparent culture, had never encountered its like. Some turned from the warp with disgust when the corrupting nature of chaos and its effect on reality became evident. But others responded with new vigour. The manifestations of chaos, insanity, wickedness, and depravity spread like wildfire through the Eldar and was carried further by tainted individuals with access to these warp gates. In the space of a single generation, the Eldar paused in their quest for enlightenment and chose the darker path into the service of chaos. Now, as you're all probably quite aware, Eldar Harlequins often have face masks of a sort, and I have here a mask which was used for shopping and things like that. This is a disposable mask, but I haven't yet yesterday, that's a Beatles song. I haven't yet disposed of it because it has a very interesting feature, this mask here. I don't know if you can make it out. It's just on the lip around here where it's been sewn, but it says on here, if you're enjoying this video, then please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. That means you, Rachel. If you are enjoying the content here on the channel, then please consider joining the Patreon, the link to which is in the description below and up here. Eldar, who remained untouched by chaos, retreated to the city ships and the larger craft worlds. the insanity of chaos had no foothold or appeal aboard the vast ships. The warp gates to the infected Eldar worlds were closed and locked. The city ships were absorbed into the larger craft worlds and all drifted into the depths of space, lifeboats and seed pods of civilization. The rest of their race sank wholeheartedly into the dark worship of the Chaos Gods. A racial madness had taken hold throughout Eldar space, and the insanity had only one end. In a mindless psychic orgy, every Eldar planet perished in a single night. The death screams of the Eldar echoed across the warp. On every planet, Eldar corpses twitched in the mindless dance of chaos and crumbled to dust. Worlds were laid waste in moments. The Eldar race were sucked into the warp. The dead Eldar, however, were not gone. Their spirits had merged with the warp in a horrifying manner. Their death shout became a howl of joy and release. Slaanesh, the Lord of Pleasure, god of unbridled depravity, was born from the dark side of the Eldar nature. The psychic pain of the Eldar's racial death and Slaanesh's birth convulsed the warp. The warp storms around Earth were blown away, and warp space itself rippled into new patterns. The last of the Eldar drifted into the long night between the stars. The racial memory of their former glory and nobility sustained them, while the downfall of the race filled them with bitterness. They had come face to face with their darkest desires and had been found wanting. For them, mankind is a reminder of what happened long ago. Humanity is treading the same path towards the darkness of chaos, a crude mirror of the Eldar's own disgrace. They are burdened by racial shame for the weakness of their failed ancestors. The bright, hopeful universe is a place of stark, gibbering horror, and the Eldar fell when confronted with this truth. Surviving Eldar have grown since then, accepting and holding in check the chaos that lurks within their hearts. A delicate balancing act that they seem to have mastered at last. Mankind rushes towards the fate of the Eldar, but without the ability to preserve itself in any form. All the signs are there to be read. Humanity's moral leprosy of chaos worship, its rising number of emergent psychers, its lust for universal power, and its fragile, failing emperor. The Black Library. Much of the Eldar's ancient knowledge and culture was lost during the flight from chaos. The craft worlds became the sole repository of Eldar wisdom, and this fragmented as the Eldar nations drifted apart. Craft worlds were lost over the millennia, and knowledge vanished with them. A single source of Eldar knowledge has remained untouched and inviolate since the fall. Aboard a dark craft world, far beyond the boundaries of the Imperium, is the Black Library of Chaos. Here are the collected tomes, books and codices describing the Eldar studies of the warp. The forbidden lore of the Black Library describes the blandishments, influences, forms, creatures, perils, promises and horrors of chaos. Enclosed within a nearly impenetrable psychic barrier, the Black Library is watched and maintained by its guardian scribes. They collate and transcribe the knowledge of the library, a task that they have carried since the fall of the Eldar. They also maintain a hawk-like watch over their charges, the book's dreadful repositories of secret powers, and must be monitored at all times. The existence of the Black Library is known to only a few, and entry is allowed to even fewer individuals. The library's mind defends itself against the weak who would misuse its knowledge by refusing entry to all except those who have acknowledged and tempered the chaos within themselves. The immature, who are still vulnerable to the promises and seductions of chaos, find that they are unable to pass through its gateway. As a result, few have seen within the library or read any of its books. Only two groups come and go at will: the human Illuminati and the solitaires of the Eldar Harlequins. The guardian scribes rarely leave once they have entered. The Harlequin Mask. The Harlequins are distinguished by their face masks, or agaeth, Eldar for false face, which they are said to never take off. Avatars generally have snarling or laughing masks. Warlocks often favour blank or abstract masks. Death Jesters invariably wear skull-faced masks, and those worn by troopers can vary wildly. The differences are purely superficial. However, since all Harlequin masks have a number of common functions, acting as a respirator with autosensors and an infra-vision visor, avatars are equipped with the so-called Rictus mask, or Marathag, Eldar for Face of Death. This is fitted with a small hollow projector which is programmed to replay the death throes of every opponent the Harlequin has ever killed, over and over again in a continuous cycle. This has the effect of making the Harlequin cause fear in all hand-to-hand combat opponents. The Harlequin's Kiss, also known as the Brathu Angau, the Eldar Kiss of Doom or Sting. This terrifying weapon is the Harlequin's trademark. It consists of a slim tube generally strapped to the back of the forearm, which fires a long stream of monofilament wire. After a successful hand-to-hand combat hit against an opponent, the wire streams out of the kiss and into the victim's body, where its twisting and coiling quickly reduces bones and organs to the consistency of soup. Less intelligent races, such as Orcoids, often believe the Harlequins to be malevolent warp creatures or worse. The Shuriken Cannon, or Buana, which is Eldar for Reaper, is a heavy version of the devastating Shuriken Catapult, and is another heavy weapon favoured by the Death Jesters. Its enormous rate of fire makes it particularly feared. In addition to normal Shuriken ammunition, the Shuriken Cannon can fire the terrible bio-explosive shurikens. The nature of these projectiles makes individual loading necessary. The mini grenade launcher, or Krydan, Eldar for Belief Maker, is a piece of special equipment used by Warlock characters. Essentially, it is a light grenade launcher worn like a backpack. It projects grenades over the user's shoulders while leaving both hands free to use other weapons. Like other grenade launchers, it can fire indirectly. In performance, it is used to provide special effects, using a mixture of light, sound, and programmed hallucinogen grenades. In battle, it can fire grenades of any type, and it is not slow firing. The Holosuit, or Dathidi, Eldar for Between Colours, Visual Disruption Field, Jigsaw Shield, or Domino Shield, is a form of programmable hologram field, used extensively by Harlequins both for themselves and their vehicles. Every Harlequin is equipped with a holosuit, which projects costume effects in performance and has a number of uses in battle. When its wearer is in motion, the field breaks up the outline of the figure using an enhanced form of disruptive camouflage. To the observer, the Harlequin appears to explode into a cloud of tiny, multicoloured fragments every time he moves, and when he remains stationary, the fragments coalesce into a solid figure, like the pieces of a jigsaw. The greater the speed of movement, the greater the disruption of the image, and the wider the dispersion of the cloud fragments. The suit also has a Camellia-line emulation program, which is activated whenever the Harlequin is stationary. The total effect is of a blurring cloud of colour, fading to nothing when it stops. In close combat, the holosuit works to confuse hand-to-hand combat opponents. Bio-explosive shurikens. The Bio-shuriken, or Maskrek, Eldar for Screaming Death, is a special ammunition type for the shuriken cannon. It has earned a terrible reputation among many races for its spectacular and deadly effect. Among the many names it has been given are Screamers, Screaming Bug, Gut Blower, and Bomb Serum. Each bio-explosive shuriken consists of a shaped energy field containing a small amount of a genetically tailored serum. They must be loaded individually, so a shuriken cannon loses its following fire capability when using this type of ammunition. A victim who is wounded does not die immediately. Instead, the serum works its way into the brain, where it begins to replicate itself at a terrible pace. Sensory nerves are overloaded with every imaginable sensation at once, and the victim often staggers in a random direction, screaming and moaning. After a time, the serum's activity has reached such a pitch that the victim's head explodes. Bio-explosive shurikens are instantly recognisable by the whining noise they make in flight. So, the Eldar Harlequins of the Oldhammer era. What did you think of that? Do you think the Eldar Harlequins Quinks? The Eldar Quinkers. I think they were something in the Star Wars Galaxy role-playing games back in the day. Quinkers. Shush down there! Baby is trying to interrupt my video again. Do you think the Eldar Harlequins fit the universe as we know it? Do you think the old Eldar Harlequins were a good fit for the early years of the Warhammer 40,000 universe? Do you think much has changed with the Harlequins over the years since the 1980s? What is your favourite unit in the Harlequins? Is it the desk jester, you know, the desk jester rapidly typing away, and boom goes his typewriter. The desk jester, the death jester, or solitaire. Do you prefer the older Harlequin miniatures and lore, or the new, current Harlequin miniatures and lore? Let us know in the comments below. Now, myself, I always did enjoy the Eldar Harlequins. I thought they were cool, especially with the Harlequin's kiss, but I was always very scared of painting the miniatures. All those swirly lozenges and checker patterns they look quite difficult for me. They looked quite difficult for me to paint. Also, did you know the Harlequins had access to Land Raiders? That's something that's quite interesting and we don't see anymore, but I would like to. Also, the Black Library is supposed to be guarded by Guardians. Well, of course. Is supposed to be guarded by some Harlequins. Do you think the Black Library is the actual craft world, home world of the Eldar Harlequins? That's something interesting, isn't it? I don't actually know. Who does live in the Black Library? Is the Black Library actually a craft world of its own, or is it part of someone else's craft world, or is it set out on its own little room somewhere in the webway? If you'd like to see some more Oldhammer, I know you do, and check out the playlist up here somewhere. As always, thank you very much for watching, and always remember to drill your barrels.